typically where we look at the rights and where conflicts arise. You have, of course, the right to free speech. You have the right to petition your government. And sometimes they go hand in hand and sometimes they don't. You have the right to freedom of association, which, although is not part of the First Amendment itself, it has been engrafted or has been recognized for a long time by the U.S. Supreme Court as a fundamental right, as if it was expressed in the First Amendment. Those rights come into your programs when you're looking at protest or when you're looking at petitioning your government or complaining to your government, which in this case is the university, about fairness, about how you're treated, about how restrictions on your behavior may impact your education. With respect to equal protection arguments that come under the 14th Amendment, you have the right to be treated fairly. You have the right not to be singled out for unfair treatment. So the standard is whether fair treatment provides to you is the same as it provides to others. Typically, we look at 14th Amendment or equal protection claims in the light of whether you belong to a suspect class or a protected class. Race, sex in state law, not gender in federal law. Religion, political affiliation. Those are all protected class rights, and if you're discriminated against any of those, you have the right to bring a federal lawsuit to protect those rights. But you also have the right under equal protection to fundamentally fair treatment. And that means that the government cannot treat you in an arbitrary or capricious way if it's motivated by animus, if it's motivated by an attempt to shut you up or to stop you from trying to organize your students, even if you don't belong to a protected class. You have that right to fair treatment under equal protection. So the government cannot single you out and say, I don't like your speech, I'm going to let you continue to express it, but there's going to be consequences for that. As students, sometimes you're employees. Sometimes it's in the context of a work-study program or actual employment on campus. You have the same rights in many cases as you do as if you're employed in the private sector. In certain cases, dealing with injury or if you died, you may be limited to workers' compensation claims under the state workers' compensation system. In other cases, you may not have the right to collect unemployment. For example, if your job terminates you early. So those are a little bit different. Going back to your right of free speech, in your student conduct code, you have some limitations. And the government has the ability to regulate reasonably the time, manner, and place of your speech. A few years ago, universities tried to confine speech to particular areas, often in a parking lot, removed from the main campus. That doesn't apply anymore. You have the same right of speech so long as you don't disrupt the functions of the university. So there is a limitation on it. This is a place where everybody is entitled to learn, and if you disrupt that learning, you may have exceeded the bounds of the acceptable free speech or right to petition that you would otherwise be entitled to. I reviewed your student conduct code and I reviewed some of the university policies. In some cases, it seems to be a little overbroad. The university would like to prevent you, or at least on paper, from disruption of the activities of others, but it includes in that trying to solicit others to join into your speech. In my view, that's unenforceable. That should not be part of your student code, and it should be restricted. But it's there, and you need to know it. So before you engage in your First Amendment speech and your right to petition, in claims that you're being unfairly treated, you should know, you should understand what the sources of those rights are. You should get a copy of the federal Constitution and read at least the Bill of Rights. You should get a copy of the Hawaii State Constitution and read its Bill of Rights. You should understand your student conduct code. You should understand your university's policies on free speech, and they do have them. Once you have that information, you're much better armed to make decisions about how to craft your speech, how to craft your complaints, and how to get others to join in your protests. If there are any questions, I try to answer them, but thank you for the opportunity to present.